Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the metal door buried deep in the rock. 3 miles below the surface of what used to be Colorado, his team had been digging for weeks. The door was different from anything he had seen before. It was human-made, but the metal looked new even though it had to be hundreds of thousands of years old. "Lisa, come look at this," Jake called to the woman kneeling nearby. Dr. Lisa Carter was the smartest person in their underground colony. She knew more about the old world than anyone else alive. Lisa walked over and ran her hand along the smooth surface. Her eyes went wide. "Jake, this is incredible. The metal hasn't rusted at all. This technology is way beyond what we have now." Behind them, the rest of the digging team gathered around. There were 12 people total, all volunteers from the new Denver underground colony. They had been living in tunnels and caves for their entire lives. Their parents had lived underground too, and their grandparents, going back 500,000 years. The aliens had come from the stars long ago. The Zephyrians looked like giant insects with 4 arms and hard shells covering their bodies. They had ships that could cross space and weapons that could melt rock. When they arrived at Earth, humans fought back, but it was no use. The aliens were too strong and too advanced. The Zephyrians wanted Earth's metals and rare elements. They built huge machines that dug into the ground and sucked out everything valuable. They poisoned the air and turned the oceans into toxic waste. Most humans died in those first years. The ones who survived went underground and stayed there. Ryan Brooks, the colony's security chief, stepped forward. "We should be careful. Opening this door might trigger their sensors." Jake nodded. Ryan was right to worry. The Zephyrians had machines all over the surface that watched for signs of human activity. If they detected too much energy or movement, they would send their warrior drones to investigate. "Elena, can you check for any signals?" Jake asked. Elena Rodriguez was young but gifted with languages and technology. She carried a device that could detect alien transmissions. She held it up and listened carefully. "Nothing right now, but that could change." Jake made his decision. "We've come too far to turn back now. Lisa, do you see any way to open it?" Lisa examined the door more closely. There were symbols carved into the metal, but they weren't alien markings. They were human. Letters and numbers, but in a style she had never seen before. These looked like coordinates, maybe a combination lock. She pressed her hand against different symbols. Nothing happened at first. Then she tried pressing them in a sequence based on the old maps she had studied. There was a soft click, and the door began to slide open. Cool air flowed out from the opening. Jake shined his flashlight into the darkness beyond. There was a hallway that stretched further than his light could reach. The walls were lined with strips of metal that gave off a faint blue glow. "Emergency lighting," Lisa whispered. "Still working after all this time." They entered slowly, with Ryan leading the way and his rifle ready. The hallway was perfectly clean, as if it had been built yesterday. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. The hallway opened into a huge room filled with machines and computers. Most of them were dark, but some still had lights blinking on their surfaces. In the center of the room stood a large table with a glowing surface. Lisa approached the table carefully. When she got close, it suddenly lit up with a bright display. Images and text appeared, showing maps of Earth from before the alien invasion. But these weren't ordinary maps. They showed locations of military bases, weapon factories, and spaceship launch sites. "My God," Lisa breathed. "This is a command center. Our ancestors had space travel. They had weapons we can't even imagine." Jake joined her at the table. The display responded to their presence, showing more detailed information. There were videos of human spaceships fighting alien vessels among the stars. There were technical drawings of weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Why didn't they win?" Elena asked from behind them. "If they had all this, how did the aliens beat us?" Lisa touched the screen, and a new video began to play. It showed a human general speaking to the camera. His uniform was crisp and his face was determined, but Jake could see fear in his eyes. "If you are seeing this message, then our primary defenses have failed," the general said. "The Zephyrian Empire has overwhelming numbers. We estimate their fleet at over 10 million vessels. Our combined Earth forces number less than 50,000 ships. The video continued, explaining how the human leaders had prepared for total defeat. They had hidden weapon caches and command centers all over the planet. They had created AI systems that would activate centuries later, when humanity was ready to fight back. The key to victory lies not in matching their numbers, but in using our greatest strength, the general continued. Humans adapt, we learn, we survive. When the time comes, use these resources wisely. Make them pay for what they have done to our world. The video ended, and the room fell silent. Jake felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They had found something incredible, but it also meant that humanity's real war was just beginning. Suddenly, Elena's detection device began beeping rapidly. Jake, we have a problem. I'm picking up Zephyrian signals. Something big is coming this way. Ryan ran to the hallway entrance and looked back toward the surface. We need to move. Now. But Lisa was frantically working at the control table. Wait. There's more. The system is trying to connect to other sites. There are more hidden bases like this one. The table displayed a world map with dozens of blinking points. Each one represented another hidden facility. Some were marked as weapon caches, others as research centers or communication hubs. There are survivors at some of these locations, Lisa said, reading the data streams. The system is detecting active human settlements near several sites. Jake made a quick decision. Download everything you can. We need to get this information back to the colony. Lisa worked quickly, transferring files to a portable storage device. The beeping from Elena's detector was getting faster and louder. They're almost here, Elena warned. Multiple contacts coming down the main tunnel. Ryan positioned himself at the hallway entrance with his rifle ready. Whatever you're doing, do it faster. Jake grabbed a second storage device and began copying weapon blueprints. The information was incredible. Designs for energy weapons, shield generators, and something called a quantum disruptor that could tear apart alien ship hulls. The sound of drilling echoed from the tunnels above them. The Zephyrians were coming. Got it, Lisa announced, pocketing her storage device. Jake finished his download just as the first alien drone appeared in the hallway. It looked like a metal spider the size of a dog with glowing red sensors and cutting tools for arms. Ryan opened fire, his bullets sparking off the drone's armor. Run! They scattered toward different exits. The command center had 3 escape tunnels, just as the ancient builders had planned. Jake and Lisa went left. Ryan and Elena went right, and the rest of the team split up to confuse their pursuers. As Jake ran through the narrow tunnel, he could hear more drones entering the command center behind them. Laser beams flashed in the darkness, cutting through rock and metal. But the ancient facility had been built to withstand attacks. Heavy blast doors began closing automatically, sealing off sections of the complex. Jake and Lisa emerged from their tunnel 2 miles away from the entrance. They were both breathing hard and covered in dust, but they were alive. More importantly, they carried the key to humanity's future in their pockets. We did it, Lisa said, holding up her storage device. We actually did it. Jake smiled for the first time in months. For the first time in his life, he felt hope. Humanity wasn't helpless after all. They had weapons and allies they didn't even know about. The real war was about to begin, and this time they had a chance to win. 3 days after the discovery at the buried command center, Jake Morrison sat in his office deep in the New Denver colony. The storage devices from the ancient facility lay on his desk, along with printouts of the most important information. He had barely slept since returning from the underground mission. Lisa Carter knocked on his door and entered without waiting for an answer. Her face was excited but tired. Jake, you need to see this. The communication system is working. Jake followed her through the colony's narrow corridors to the communication room. Elena Rodriguez was sitting at a console, wearing headphones and adjusting dials on equipment they had built using the ancient blueprints. I've made contact with someone, Elena said without looking up from her work. The signal is coming from Australia. Jake grabbed a second pair of headphones and listened. Through the static, he could hear a man's voice speaking English with an Australian accent. This is Colonel Ben Parker of the Australian Underground Network. Can anyone hear this transmission? We are located beneath what used to be Sydney. We have approximately 8,000 survivors in our main facility. Jake took the microphone. This is Captain Jake Morrison from the New Denver colony in North America. We can hear you clearly, Colonel. How long have you been trying to make contact? There was a pause, then excitement in the Australian's voice. Bloody hell, mate. We've been sending signals for 2 days now. You're the first to respond. We found one of those ancient facilities, too. Stumbled onto it quite by accident while expanding our living quarters. Over the next hour, Jake and Colonel Parker exchanged information about their discoveries. The Australian colony had found a research facility filled with experimental technology. They had been working on stealth systems and camouflage devices that could hide human settlements from alien sensors. The most interesting thing we found, Parker explained, is something called adaptive shielding. It uses alien materials we've salvaged over the years and combines them with human engineering. We've tested it on a small scale, and it works. The Zephyrian scanners can't detect anything behind the shield. Jake felt his pulse quicken. How much area can you cover? Right now, just a few rooms, but the plans show how to build larger generators. With enough materials, we could shield entire underground cities. Elena interrupted their conversation. Jake, I'm picking up another signal. This one is coming from Europe. The new voice belonged to a woman with a German accent. This is Dr. Amy Foster speaking for the European Collective. We represent 12 connected colonies beneath the old continent. We have been monitoring these transmissions. May we join your discussion? Within an hour, they had connected with 5 different colony networks around the world. Each group had found ancient facilities and had been working to understand the technology inside them. Jake realized that the old human government had planned for this moment, scattering resources and knowledge across the globe. Dr. Foster from Europe had the most surprising news. We have been studying genetic samples from our population for many years. The younger generation, those born in the last 50 years, show remarkable adaptations. They are naturally resistant to Zephyrian bioweapons and can process toxins in the air much better than older humans. Lisa leaned toward the microphone. This is Dr. Lisa Carter. Are you saying that humans are evolving to survive in the poisoned environment? Exactly. Evolution has been working in our favor. The children born today are stronger, faster, and more resistant to environmental hazards than their parents. They are also showing improved reflexes and problem-solving abilities. Jake thought about the young people in his own colony. He had noticed that they seemed more capable than previous generations, but he had assumed it was just better education and training. Colonel Parker's voice came through the speakers again. We've been training some of our young people as surface scouts. They can spend hours on the surface without protection and show no ill effects. One of our best scouts is a lad named Nick Davis. He's been mapping Zephyrian patrol routes for months. Can we speak with him? Jake asked. There was movement and muffled voices on the Australian end of the transmission. Then a younger voice came through clearly. This is Lieutenant Nick Davis. I've been living on the surface for weeks at a time. The aliens are getting sloppy. They rely too much on their automated systems. Most of their patrol drones follow the same routes every day. There are huge gaps in their coverage. Nick described what he had seen during his reconnaissance missions. The Zephyrian surface installations were heavily defended, but they were old and poorly maintained. Many of the alien soldiers seemed bored and inattentive. Their equipment was functional but outdated. They act like they've already won, Nick explained. Like there's no threat left to worry about. Some of their bases have been running on automatic for decades. I've seen installations where no actual aliens have visited in years. Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. This was exactly the kind of intelligence they needed. Dr. Foster added her own observations. Our scouts report similar findings in Europe. The aliens have become complacent. They assume humanity is broken and will never fight back. Elena had been working at her console while listening to the conversation. She looked up with an excited expression. Jake, I've broken into their communication network. I can understand some of their transmissions now. She played a recording of alien voices speaking in their clicking, buzzing language. Then she provided a translation. Base command to Sector 7. Reduce patrol frequency to minimum levels. No human activity detected in this region for over 200 cycles. Recommend transferring security units to the outer colonies where they are needed. Jake felt a surge of hope. The aliens were pulling their forces away from Earth. They considered the planet secure and were focusing their attention elsewhere. There's more, Elena continued. They're having trouble with other species in the galaxy. Something called the Hegemony War is requiring most of their military resources. Earth is considered a safe rear area. Colonel Parker laughed grimly. So they're fighting someone else and ignoring us. That's the best news I've heard in years. Over the following hours, the various colony leaders shared their resources and knowledge. Jake learned that the Asian colonies had discovered manufacturing facilities that could produce advanced weapons. The African networks had found medical technology that could heal radiation damage and genetic disorders. Most importantly, they began coordinating their efforts for the first time in centuries. Each colony would focus on their strengths while sharing information with the others. We need to start thinking bigger, Jake said to the group. These facilities weren't just hidden bunkers. They were the foundation for a resistance movement that was planned 500,000 years ago. Lisa was studying data from all the connected colonies. Look at this pattern. The facilities aren't randomly placed. They form a network designed to support coordinated military operations across the entire planet. Dr. Foster agreed. The genetic adaptations in our young people, the hidden technology, the alien complacency, everything is coming together at the same time. This cannot be coincidence. Nick Davis spoke up from Australia. I volunteer to establish communication relays on the surface. If I can set up transmitters at key locations, we can coordinate operations in real time. Jake knew it was incredibly dangerous, but they needed those communication links. What do you need? Just the equipment and a few volunteers who aren't afraid of sunlight. We've been hiding underground for 500,000 years. It's time to reclaim the surface. Colonel. Parker supported his scout. Nick knows the surface better than anyone. If anyone can do this, it's him. Jake made the decision that would change everything. We approve the surface communication mission, but we don't just set up transmitters. We start gathering intelligence on every alien installation within 100 miles of each colony. We map their weaknesses, their schedules, their supply lines. Elena looked up from her equipment. Jake, there's something else. The ancient AI systems are still active. They're not just providing information. They're calculating probabilities and making tactical recommendations. She showed them a display screen filled with numbers and diagrams. According to the AI analysis, we have a 73% chance of successful surface operations if we coordinate between at least 6 colony networks. Jake smiled. For the first time in human history since the invasion, they had hope, technology, and a plan. The underground phase of their survival was ending. The resistance phase was about to begin. All colony leaders, are you ready to begin Phase 1 surface operations? One by one, voices from around the world confirmed their agreement. Humanity was finally ready to fight back. The alarm that woke Jake Morrison was different from any he had heard before. Instead of the usual warning signals that meant danger, this alarm was playing an old human song from before the invasion. He recognized it from the historical recordings Lisa had found in the ancient archives. Jake rushed to the communication center where Elena was working frantically at her console. Her face was pale with excitement and fear. Jake, something incredible is happening. One of the old military bunkers has activated. Someone is trying to contact us and they're using codes that are 500,000 years old. The voice that came through the speakers was clear and strong, with an American accent that sounded formal and military. This is General Kate Sullivan, United States Space Command, broadcasting from Facility Alpha 7. I am requesting immediate contact with any surviving human authority. Priority 1 emergency protocols are now in effect. Jake grabbed the microphone with shaking hands. General Sullivan, this is Captain Jake Morrison, leader of the New Denver colony. How is this possible? How are you still alive? There was a pause before the general answered. Captain Morrison, I have been in cryogenic suspension for 500,000 years. My facility's AI systems detected the recent activation of resistance networks and automatically began my revival process. I awakened 3 hours ago. Over the next hour, General Sullivan explained her situation. She had been placed in a special bunker designed to survive planetary catastrophe. The facility contained advanced military equipment, weapon designs, and, most importantly, detailed intelligence about human military capabilities from before the invasion. Captain, I need to meet with you and other colony leaders immediately. What I have to share will change everything about our resistance efforts. Jake arranged for a secure meeting location halfway between their colonies. It was an abandoned subway station that Nick Davis had confirmed was outside of alien patrol routes. 2 days later, Jake found himself face to face with a woman who had been alive during humanity's golden age. General Sullivan was tall and confident, with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a military uniform that looked brand new, but carried weapons Jake had never seen before. Captain Morris and Dr. Carter, I've reviewed the intelligence your people have gathered. You've done remarkable work under impossible circumstances, but now it's time to take the fight to the enemy. The general opened a case filled with data tablets and holographic projectors. The images that appeared showed human military installations from the old days, complete with spacecraft and weapons that dwarfed anything the current colonies possessed. Before the invasion, humanity had established military bases throughout the solar system. Mars, the Moon, the asteroid belt, even some of Jupiter's moons. When Earth fell, these installations went into hiding mode. Lisa leaned forward, fascinated. Are you saying some of them might still be operational? More than that. 3 days ago, I re-established contact with Lunar Base Prometheus. They have a full squadron of warships and 15,000 personnel in cryogenic sleep. They've been waiting for activation orders. Jake felt his heart racing. Warships? How many? 57 vessels ranging from destroyers to battlecruisers. Each one is equipped with quantum weaponry that can punch through Zephyrian shields like paper. Elena spoke up from her monitoring station. General, I've been tracking alien communications. They have no idea these bases exist. Their intelligence is completely focused on ground-based threats. General Sullivan smiled grimly. Exactly what we hoped for. The Zephyrians conquered Earth, but they never bothered to secure the rest of the solar system. They assumed that without Earth, human space forces would simply surrender or die. Colonel Parker's voice came through the communication link from Australia. General, this is Colonel Ben Parker. What do you need from us on the ground? Simultaneous strikes, Colonel. While our space forces engage their orbital platforms, ground teams need to hit their surface installations. We've identified 43 key targets across 6 continents. If we can destroy their command centers and communication hubs, their entire planetary defense network will collapse. Dr. Foster from Europe joined the conversation. General, our enhanced humans are ready for surface combat. The new generation shows remarkable resistance to their weapons and environmental hazards. Excellent. We'll coordinate the attacks for maximum impact, but first we need to wake up our space forces and test their readiness. Over the following weeks, the colonies worked together to prepare for humanity's first major offensive in half a million years. Marcus Wright, a surface survivor who had spent years studying alien patrol patterns, provided detailed intelligence about enemy movements and weak points. The big mining installation in what used to be Nevada has only 12 guards during the day shift, Marcus explained to Jake's strike team. Their weapons are powerful, but they're not expecting any real resistance. Most of their security systems are automated and predictable. Dr. Peter Hayes, an engineer from the European colonies, had been working on atmospheric processors that could begin healing Earth's poisoned environment. If we can capture their environmental control systems intact, we can reverse centuries of damage within decades. Jake studied the attack plans with his team leaders. Ryan Brooks would lead the assault on the Nevada facility, while Jake commanded the overall operation from a mobile command post. Remember, speed and surprise are our only advantages, Jake told his people. We hit fast, grab what we can, and get out before their reinforcements arrive. The day of the attack dawned gray and poisonous, like every day on Earth's surface. But for the first time in generations, humans were not just hiding and surviving. They were fighting back. Jake watched through his binoculars as Ryan's team approached, the alien mining facility. The Zephyrian guards were exactly where Marcus had predicted they would be, following their routine patrol patterns without any awareness of danger. Elena's voice crackled through his radio. All teams, this is communication control. Space Forces report they are in position. Lunar Base Prometheus is launching their attack squadron now. High above, invisible to ground observers, human warships that had been hidden for centuries emerged from concealment and began their approach to Zephyrian orbital platforms. Ground teams, you are clear to begin operations, General Sullivan's voice commanded. Ryan's team struck first, using weapons that combined human engineering with alien technology. The enhanced humans moved faster than the Zephyrian guards could react, and their new weapons cut through alien armor like it was made of paper. Across the globe, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. Colonel Parker's forces hit 3 installations in Australia. Dr. Foster's enhanced soldiers destroyed a major command center in Germany. Teams in Asia, Africa, and South America all struck their targets at the same moment. Jake watched in amazement as the Nevada facility fell within minutes. The Zephyrian guards were completely unprepared for coordinated human resistance. Their weapons and tactics had been designed to fight desperate survivors, not organized military forces. Target secured, Ryan reported. We have control of the mining equipment and the environmental systems. Dr. Hayes can begin atmospheric restoration immediately. Similar reports came in from around the world. Every single target had been captured or destroyed. The Zephyrians had lost their major ground installations in a single coordinated strike. Elena, monitoring alien communications, became increasingly excited. Jake, their command network is in complete chaos. They're trying to contact orbital support, but something is interfering with their signals. General Sullivan's voice came through the radio with satisfaction. That interference is our Space Forces engaging their orbital platforms. Captain Morrison, I'm pleased to report that the first phase of surface reclamation has exceeded all expectations. Jake looked out across the captured mining facility, where human engineers were already beginning to shut down the toxic extraction processes. For the first time in 500,000 years, humans controlled significant territory on Earth's surface. All teams, this is Morrison. Phase 1 is complete. We have reclaimed our first foothold on the surface of our own planet. But even as they celebrated their victory, Elena's monitoring equipment detected new signals from deep space. The Zephyrian home system had received word of the attacks. Reinforcements were coming, and they would arrive in force. The real war was just beginning, but humanity had proven they could fight and win. Earth was no longer completely under alien control. Admiral Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, humanity's most advanced warship. 6 months had passed since the surface reclamation began, and now he was leading 50 human vessels toward the edge of the solar system. Intelligence reports showed that a massive Zephyrian fleet was approaching Earth with over 300 ships. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up the enemy formation, reported Commander Sarah Blake from her position at the tactical station. She was young for a starship captain, but her skills in space combat were unmatched among the awakened crews. Tony studied the holographic display showing the approaching alien fleet. The Zephyrians had arranged their ships in the same formation they had used for thousands of years. Large battleships in the center, surrounded by smaller escort vessels, with scout ships spread out in a wide screening pattern. They haven't changed their tactics in centuries, Tony observed. Dr. Chen, are the new weapons ready for combat testing? Dr. Alex Chen looked up from his engineering console. For the past months, he had been working to combine human technology with captured alien systems. The results were weapons that neither species could have created alone. All hybrid weapon systems are online and ready, Admiral. The quantum plasma cannons should penetrate their shields with 50% more efficiency than our standard weapons. Tony nodded and opened a communication channel to all ships in the human fleet. This is Admiral Mitchell to all vessels. Today we face an enemy that has oppressed humanity for 500,000 years. They expect us to run and hide like we always have. Instead, we're going to show them what humans can do when we fight together. Commander Blake had been studying the enemy formation carefully. Admiral, I have an idea. Their formation assumes we'll attack from the front like a traditional fleet, What if we use our smaller size to our advantage? Explain. We split into 3 groups. The main fleet engages them head-on to get their attention. Meanwhile, 2 smaller groups circle around, using the asteroid belt for cover and hit them from the sides. Their formation can't handle attacks from multiple directions. Tony smiled. Blake was thinking exactly like a human should think, unpredictably and creatively. Make it happen, Commander. You'll lead the main engagement force. I'll take a strike. Group around the left flank. As the fleets approached each other, Elena Rodriguez was monitoring communications from her station aboard the command ship. She had become humanity's expert on alien languages and could now understand most Zephyrian transmissions. Admiral, I'm intercepting their battle communications. They're calling us primitive ground crawlers and expecting an easy victory. Their fleet commander is already planning victory celebrations. Let them celebrate early, Tony replied. It will make their defeat more satisfying. The battle began when the Zephyrian fleet opened fire at maximum range. Their energy weapons created brilliant streaks of light across space, but most of their shots missed the smaller, more agile human ships. Commander Blake led the frontal assault with textbook precision. Her ships moved in coordinated patterns that confused the alien targeting systems. When the human vessels returned fire, their hybrid weapons punched through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. Direct hit on their lead battleship, Blake reported over the communication system. Their shields are down to 60% after just 3 shots. Tony's flanking group had circled through the asteroid belt and was now approaching the enemy from an unexpected angle. The Zephyrians had no idea they were coming until human weapons began tearing into their unprotected rear formations. This is Strike Group Alpha engaging enemy escorts. Their rear guard is completely unprepared for our attack. Dr. Chen's hybrid weapons proved devastatingly effective. The quantum plasma cannons could punch through alien hulls in a single shot, while the enhanced shield generators protected human ships from return fire. But the greatest advantage was human tactics. The Zephyrians fought like they always had, following predetermined patterns and formations. The humans adapted constantly, changing their approach based on how the battle developed. Admiral, their command ship is trying to retreat, Elena reported. I'm reading massive communication traffic. They're requesting immediate reinforcements from their home system. Tony made a critical decision. Instead of letting the alien command ship escape, he ordered his fastest vessels to pursue it. We can't let them report our capabilities back to their empire. Take that ship intact if possible. Commander Blake's tactical brilliance showed as she led a high-speed chase through the outer planets. Her ship, the UES Retribution, was faster and more maneuverable than anything the Zephyrians had. She cornered the alien command vessel near Jupiter's moons and forced its surrender. Command ship captured, Admiral. We have their fleet commander and tactical computers intact. The battle lasted only 3 hours, but it changed everything. The human fleet had destroyed or captured over 200 Zephyrian vessels, while losing only 7 ships of their own. It was the most decisive space battle in the war so far. Back on Earth, Jake Morrison watched the battle reports with amazement. General Sullivan stood beside him in the command center they had built in the reclaimed Nevada facility. Admiral Mitchell's victory is even more significant than the numbers suggest, the general explained. We now have access to Zephyrian star charts, communication codes, and intelligence about their other operations throughout the galaxy. Elena had been working around the clock to decode the captured information. What she found was shocking. Jake, you need to see this. The Zephyrians have enslaved dozens of species across the galaxy. Each species is kept on their home planet and forced to produce resources for the Empire. We're not the only ones suffering under their rule. The star charts showed the locations of 23 enslaved worlds. Each planet was stripped of resources, while its native population lived in underground shelters or slave colonies, just like humans had for centuries. Dr. Chen had been analyzing the captured alien technology and made another important discovery. Their empire is much weaker than we thought. They've been using the same technology for thousands of years because they don't innovate. They just take what they need from conquered species. General Sullivan studied the intelligence reports carefully. This explains why they were so unprepared for our resistance. They've never faced a species that could adapt and improve their technology during the occupation. Admiral Mitchell's voice came through the communication system from his flagship. Ground control, this is Admiral Mitchell. We've received contact requests from several of the enslaved species. News of our victory is spreading throughout the galaxy. Elena had established communication with 3 different alien species. The first was a race called the Kethtar, who looked like large cats and had been enslaved for 3,000 years. The second was the Mordun, a species of intelligent reptiles who had been fighting a guerrilla war against their Zephyrian occupiers. Admiral, this is Elena Rodriguez. The enslaved species want to coordinate resistance efforts with us. They're offering to share intelligence and resources if we can help them fight back. Jake realized that humanity had become more than just rebels fighting for their own freedom. They had become the leaders of a galactic resistance movement. Admiral Mitchell, this is Jake Morrison. What's the status of the captured Zephyrian fleet commander? We have him in custody, Jake. Commander Blake managed to take him alive during the capture operation. The alien commander was brought to the surface, under heavy guard. He was large for a Zephyrian with bright green shell markings that indicated high rank. When he spoke, his words were translated by Elena. You primitives cannot comprehend the power of our empire. This victory means nothing. Our home fleet contains 10,000 vessels. You have only delayed your inevitable destruction. General, Sullivan stepped forward. Tell your empire this. Humanity is no longer hiding underground. We have allies throughout the galaxy, and we're coming for every world you've enslaved. Your age of oppression is ending. Jake looked at the display, screens showing friendly signals from dozens of enslaved worlds. For the first time in galactic history, someone had successfully challenged Zephyrian power and won. The war was expanding beyond Earth, and humanity was at the center of it all. They had gone from hiding in caves to leading a galactic revolution in less than a year. The next phase would determine the fate of every enslaved species in the galaxy. 1 year after humanity's first space victory, President Linda Roberts stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The meeting was taking place on a space station built from captured Zephyrian technology, orbiting the planet Mars. Representatives from 47 enslaved worlds had come to join what they were calling the Galactic Liberation Alliance. Friends and allies, President Roberts began, her voice being translated into dozens of different languages by Elena Rodriguez's advanced communication systems. Today we begin the final campaign to free every enslaved world in this galaxy. Fleet. Admiral Chris Johnson watched the proceedings from the command deck of his flagship. In the past year, the human fleet had grown to over 800 vessels, most of them built using a combination of human engineering and technology donated by liberated species. The Kethtar had provided advanced shield generators that were lighter and more efficient than anything humans had developed. The Mordun had shared their expertise in stealth technology, allowing human ships to approach enemy positions undetected. A species called the Veltar had contributed weapon designs that could disrupt Zephyrian computer systems. Admiral, all fleet groups report ready for the final assault. Commander Sarah Blake reported from her position as Fleet Tactical Coordinator. She now commanded an entire battle group of 30 ships, all crewed by humans and their alien allies, working together. The target was the Zephyrian home system, a cluster of 5 planets protected by the largest fleet in their empire. Intelligence reports indicated that over 10,000 enemy vessels guarded their capital world, along with massive orbital defense stations and planetary shield generators. Captain Danny Cooper was briefing his Special Forces teams in the hangar bay of the assault ship UES Freedom. Danny led the elite units that would infiltrate enemy installations and disable their defenses from within. Remember, our job is to get inside their command centers and shut down their coordination systems, Danny told his mixed human and alien strike teams. Once their fleet loses central command, Admiral Johnson's forces can break through their defenses. Dr. Rachel Stone had been working for months on the most ambitious project in human history, terraforming technology that could heal entire planets in a matter of years instead of centuries. Her atmospheric processors were now ready for deployment on a massive scale. President Roberts, the restoration systems are ready, Dr. Stone reported through the communication system. As soon as we liberate each world, we can begin healing the environmental damage immediately. Jake Morrison, now serving as the overall military coordinator for the Alliance, studied the tactical displays showing the enemy home system. The Zephyrians had arranged their defenses in layers, with patrol fleets, orbital stations, and planetary shields all designed to protect their capital. Their defensive strategy assumes we'll attack like a traditional fleet, Jake observed to Admiral Johnson. But we're not just humans anymore. We have allies with different capabilities and tactics. The Liberation fleet that approached the Zephyrian home system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside vessels from dozens of different species, each contributing their unique strengths to the combined force. The attack began with the Mordun stealth ships infiltrating the outer defense perimeter. Their vessels were completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors, allowing them to place explosives on key communication relays without being detected. Captain Cooper's Special Forces teams used teleportation technology borrowed from a species called the Nexali to appear directly inside enemy command centers. They moved through the orbital stations like shadows, disabling security systems and opening the way for the main assault. This is Cooper to Fleet Command. We have control of Defense Station Alpha. Their shield generators are offline, and we're transmitting their security codes to all Allied vessels. The main battle began when Admiral Johnson's fleet emerged from hyperspace directly above the Zephyrian capital planet. The enemy fleet tried to respond, but their coordination was already falling apart due to the Special Forces operations. Commander Blake led the first wave of attackers, using new tactics developed specifically for this battle. Instead of engaging the enemy fleet directly, her ships targeted the command and control vessels that coordinated Zephyrian movements. Target their flagship with quantum disruptors, Blake ordered her weapons officer. The new weapons, designed by Dr. Chen using technology from 5 different species, tore through the enemy command ship's defenses in seconds. Elena Rodriguez was monitoring communications from all across the battle zone. The Liberation fleet was coordinating perfectly, with each species contributing their specialties at exactly the right moments. Admiral, the Kethtar squadrons have broken through the eastern defense line. The Veltar ships are jamming enemy communications across 3 sectors. Our human forces have cleared the approach to the capital planet. The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Zephyrian Empire had relied on overwhelming numbers and defensive positions, but they couldn't adapt to the coordinated tactics of 47 different species working together. Admiral Johnson made the final decision to demand surrender when his forces had destroyed over half the enemy fleet and captured all their major defensive stations. This is Fleet Admiral Chris Johnson of the Galactic Liberation Alliance to the Zephyrian High Command. Your defenses have fallen and your fleet is defeated. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy. The response came from the Zephyrian Emperor himself, his voice filled with disbelief and rage. This is impossible. We have ruled this galaxy for over 1,000,000 years. No primitive species has ever challenged our authority. President Roberts took over the communication. Your empire is finished, Emperor. Every species you enslaved is now free and fighting alongside us. Your age of oppression ends today. The formal surrender came 3 hours later, when Zephyrian ground forces on their capital planet laid down their weapons. Captain Cooper's teams had secured the Imperial Palace and were holding the Emperor under protective custody. Jake Morrison stood in the Emperor's throne room, looking at the insectoid ruler who had commanded the enslavement of dozens of worlds. The Emperor was smaller than Jake had expected and seemed confused by his defeat. "How did you primitives accomplish this?" the Emperor asked through Elena's translation device. "We had superior numbers, better technology, stronger defenses." Jake smiled. "You had all those things, but you didn't have what we had. You ruled through fear and oppression. We fought together as allies and friends. You never adapted or changed. We never stopped learning and growing." Dr. Stone's terraforming ships were already beginning work on the first liberated worlds. The atmospheric processors were reversing centuries of environmental damage, turning poisoned wastelands back into garden planets. President Roberts addressed the galaxy from the former Imperial Palace. "Today marks the beginning of a new age. No species will rule over another. No world will be enslaved or exploited. We will work together to heal the damage that has been done and build a better future for all. 10 years later, Jake Morrison walked through the restored streets of New York City on Earth. The sky was blue again, the oceans were clean, and plants grew in soil that had been poisoned for 500,000 years. Children who had never seen the surface were now playing in parks that had been impossible to imagine during the dark years underground. Human settlements stretched across the planet, connected by transportation systems that used the best technology from dozens of species. Elena Rodriguez had become the head of the Galactic Communication Council, helping different species work together and understand each other. Admiral Johnson commanded the Galactic Peace Fleet, which explored new regions of space and helped any species that needed assistance. Dr. Stone's terraforming technology had restored 43 worlds to full habitability. Her atmospheric processors were now standard equipment on every exploration vessel, ready to heal any damaged planet they encountered. Jake looked up at the stars, knowing that human ships were out there exploring new worlds and making contact with previously unknown species. Humanity had gone from hiding in underground caves to leading a galactic civilization in just over a decade. The age of enslavement was over. The age of cooperation and exploration had begun. And at the center of it all, the species that had once been called primitive was now known throughout the galaxy as the liberators who had freed everyone.